In this lesson, we derive one of the most important curves in macroeconomics, the aggregate supply curve. Instead of simply drawing the curve, we shall build it step by step from the behavior of firms. Our objective is to answer one fundamental question: how much output will producers supply at different price levels? To answer this question, we combine three ideas. First, the production function tells us how output depends on labor. Second, firms hire labor until the real wage equals the marginal product of labor. Finally, different price levels imply different real wages, leading firms to hire different amounts of labor and produce different levels of output. By repeating this process for many price levels, we obtain the aggregate supply curve. To begin, suppose capital is fixed in the short run. Only labor can vary. We assume the following production function, where Y denotes real output, L denotes labor. This quadratic production function captures an important economic idea. Initially, adding workers increases production rapidly. However, as more workers are employed while capital remains fixed, diminishing returns eventually appear. Output continues to rise, but at a decreasing rate. Eventually, output reaches a maximum. To determine how much additional output is produced by one more worker, we differentiate the production function. The derivative gives the marginal product of labor. Differentiating. Notice that the marginal product falls as employment increases. This is the familiar law of diminishing marginal returns. The production function eventually reaches its highest point. Maximum output occurs where the slope becomes zero. Therefore, substituting, solving. Substituting this employment level into the production function. Thus, the economy produces its maximum possible output when 80 units of labor are employed.
Next, we introduce wages. Workers are paid the nominal wage. However, firms compare wages with the value of production. Therefore, what matters is the real wage. The real wage measures the purchasing power of labor income. It equals the nominal wage divided by the price level. Assume the nominal wage is fixed at 40 currency units. As prices rise, the real wage falls. Thus, there is an inverse relationship between the price level and the real wage. Now we combine production with wages. Hiring another worker costs the nominal wage. The additional worker also produces extra output equal to the marginal product. The value of that extra production is a profit-maximizing firm hires workers until dividing both sides by the price level. This is the firm's labor demand condition. When the marginal product exceeds the real wage, hiring another worker is profitable. When the marginal product is below the real wage, employment should be reduced. Only when the two are equal is the firm's employment level optimal. Instead of analyzing just one price level, we now generate a sequence of price levels. The table begins at 1 and increases by 1/10 until it reaches 4. This gives us 31 different price levels. For each of these price levels, we shall determine firm's equilibrium employment and output.
Now we determine how much labor firms wish to employ at each price level. For every real wage, we solve the firm's equilibrium condition. The equilibrium condition states that firms hire labor until the real wage equals the marginal product of labor. The solution gives one equilibrium employment level for each price level. We extract the numerical employment levels from equilibrium solutions. These values will now be used to calculate equilibrium output. Having determined equilibrium employment for every price level, we substitute each labor value into the production function. This generates the corresponding equilibrium output. The result is a complete schedule showing how much firms are willing to produce at every price level. Finally, we construct the aggregate supply curve. For every equilibrium, output is plotted on the horizontal axis, while the corresponding price level is plotted on the vertical axis. Joining these points produces the short-run aggregate supply curve. The upward slope reflects a simple chain of economic reasoning. A higher price level reduces the real wage. Lower real wages encourage firms to hire more labor. More labor increases production. As a result, higher price levels are associated with higher equilibrium output in the short run.